So I plastered a charming smile upon my face, trying not to wince at the twinges in my thighs. The fellow in the lead drew up his own mount sharply and fixed me with hard blue eyes. "Stop right there, horse thief!" I gaped at him. But alas, thanks to my horse wrangling, I looked rather more the vagabond than the impeccable valet. In a trice, I found myself captured, bound, and hauled off to spend the night in gaol. I was released the next day, thanks to Monsieur Fogg's explanation of the circumstances. Damn it, we lost a day. The mounted police did not take very kindly to my suggestion that they incarcerate the demon horse for abduction, and the blue-eyed fellow in charge encouraged us both to leave Winnipeg at our earliest convenience. Canada doesn't seem to like us here. But to give the man his due, he did arrange with the local train companies to make that as easy as possible for us to do. We'll explore before we leave, though. When I might go north here. I walked the streets a while, discovering the possibilities for how we might make progress. So this one leaves tomorrow at 9 AM. Let's go to the market then. Sure, let's buy all this. Maybe we can use it. I hope I can take 3 suitcases. With me. With 2,000 in Quebec City. Yeah, but I think we'll go further northward. I like taking the northernmost route most of the time. So we'll have to stay for one more day. With what remained of the day, I went out to explore a little. And found a charming Slavic madame who was looking for a child. I found rummaging through a waste heap near Dock Kennel. The madame thanked me, and as we talked, remarked that there's no market in Ivujivik. I asked her how she knew, but she merely winked at me and bid me good luck on my travels. Alright. Let's depart then. It's 240, that's kind of cheap. Also takes a couple days, but that should be fine. Uncomfortable conditions and Arctic conditions. This promises to be a wearisome experience, but the Russian costume should soften things a little. Yeah. There are no rails across these lands, declared the woman who took our money and pushed a stack of furs into our arms. Nor airships. There is only one way to travel. With that, she slapped the bonnet of a steaming metal-wheeled car. Good luck. I was reassured by the many other passengers. Surely they would not all prove to be making a terrible mistake in their choice of transportation. I want to converse, yeah. Greetings, Madame Johnson. Ah, my good Passepartout. In Juvik. It's just passing place for airships. Can we go to Winnisk? Surely that will not be possible. To Quebec City? I'm sorry, I have to run. Right. No new routes. For us, then. Waited for Ivujivik with a mixed party of fur traders and a fleet of cars. The leader was a devoutly Christian Cree woman, who introduced herself as Mary Johnson and insisted on prayers before every meal, even though many of her band did not share her faith. I bent my head obediently and murmured my own prayers into the chill air. What is your wish, master? My excellent valet. Wool trousers. Thank you, Passepartout. That will make me more comfortable. Day 57, I believe. We must keep going. We have enough for the moment, I believe. The car engines had to be scraped and de-iced come morning. They were not lucky enough to have spent the night in a pile of beaver pelts, as the passengers had. We had a quick breakfast and went back on the road, and managed to reach the settlement of Winnisk, on the shores of Hudson Bay by nightfall. Relations have strengthened. And then we take a boat or what? Yeah. At Winnisk we boarded a heavy freight canoe, fitted with a makeshift combustion engine, and plowed straight across Kangiqsualuk Ilua, or as the British called it, Hudson Bay. The canoe jacked to the left suddenly, the navigator shouting a belated warning, "Ice flew!" I seized Monsieur Fogg and dragged him away from the side of the canoe. I heard Monsieur Fogg take on one sharp indrawn breath, and with a slow, crawling horror I saw his top hat jerk from the top of his head and catch the wind. Within seconds it would be out of his grasp and plunged into the churning water of the bay. I launched myself at the article of millinery with a bellow, determined it would not meet the watery grave. I balanced on the very edge of the canoe and managed to snatch the hat from a certain doom with the very tips of my fingers. I leapt down and offered the rescued article to my astonished master with a flourish. "Good catch, Passepartout," he murmured, setting the top hat upon his head with an unmistakable jaunty angle. Merely another day in the life of Passepartout, valet extraordinaire. Thankfully, the remainder of our journey to Ivujivik passed without particular incident. I mean, they're pretty fast here, considering they are crossing the entire Hudson Bay, right? We'll have to sleep here and explore in the morning. Yeah, I guess. It is a well-known fact that a traveler in search of advice would be well served to head to the nearest bar, and me, that is exactly what I did as the evening rolled around. I taught a pair of Inuit lads to play whist, and they, in turn, taught me some appallingly filthy Inuktitut swear words. I'm sure that at least half of them were real, perhaps a third. I shall never be able to look a black-ringed seal in the face again. The bartender sidled up to the table, eyeing the spread of cards between us. She cut a dashing figure, an older woman with dark eyes and an easy, charming confidence. "New to town, are you?" "Passepartout at your service, madame." I leapt up and sketched a bow, and was rewarded a flash of her smile. She introduced herself as Madame Opik Ainalik, and happily enough proved to be not only the bartender but also the controller of the local airship hangar. "It's not busy enough to be worth manning the hangar all day," she explained, "but the next airship out to Reykjavik, just tell him Opik sent you, and they'll find you a berth, if you can afford it." I flirted with Opik for the rest of the evening, even though she rebuffed me gently at every turn. "Ah, Passepartout," she laughed, bidding me good night with a chaste kiss upon the nose. "If only I were 10 years younger." Yeah, I know. I started out saying I'm not gonna flirt with every person I meet, but here I am. "Age is but a number," I told her, raising my brows. Opik laughed again, light and free, and walked away into the chill, ice-edged night. What a town, mes amis. What a woman. Day 61, Monsieur Fogg murmured that night in his sleep, and still some distance to travel. Good, so we don't need to explore. We can, but I mean, I guess we want to catch that ship. Parts at 9 AM, yeah. Want to go to Reykjavik, arrives tomorrow. High winds and Arctic conditions. This promises to be a wearisome route, but the Russian costume should help a bit. So we should arrive day 62. 10 AM. We took cheap passage on a battered old airship headed for Reykjavik. Though the captain warned us we would be making a stop to pick up 3 months' worth of readings from a meteorological outpost on the southern tip of Greenland. Any chance of bears? I asked, voice wavering. The captain shot me a quizzical look. Polar bears, yes, she said, and then chuckled outright at my obvious look of horror. Zudalors. Zudalor? Hello? Zudalor? The indignities I suffered upon this helter-skelter journey. Converse. Greetings, Captain. Greetings, Passepartout. How about Reykjavik? There are geysers in Reykjavik that go all the way into the earth itself. Snowden. Neither bank nor market in Snowden. Yeah, I do talk about Nanotalik. We reached the outpost as the blizzard outside intensified. I could barely see the compact buildings through the sleet, and I fear the pilot would miss the tether. We would simply keep drifting in the winds. The pilot's aim was true, either skill, practice, or luck. The airship's hook caught the outpost's tether on the first try, pulling us into the waiting dock. We'll have to sleep here. Explore in the morning. Alright. Yes. Pass the night here. The outpost itself was a barren and cheerless place, apparently manned by a single hardy soul who kept watch over the instruments and recorded meticulous notes. What is this place called? I asked, teeth chattering. The pilot shrugged. It's simply the outpost. Who'd bother giving it a name? The person who lives here, I retorted. Nobody lives here. It's not fit to be someone's home, the pilot muttered. It's just a stop on the way to somewhere. Even if you're the poor bastard who's hired to stop here for half a year. Speaking of which, the pilot opened an inner door and gestured for me to enter. You wish me to go alone? I asked, unaccountably nervous. He doesn't like our sword muddying up the place, he snorted. Better to introduce yourself on your own, right? I did as I was asked, entering to the room where I saw the outline of a man, lit by a glow of a bank of instruments. Bonjour, monsieur, I called cheerfully, and the man gave a start. He turned and fixed me with disconcertingly pale grey eyes. Visitors, he sneered, with the same disdain another man might say, murderers or roaches. What do you want? I only thought to introduce myself, I replied stiffly. It seemed courteous to do. The man exhaled heavily. He brushed a hand through his unruly blonde hair. Please forgive me, my manners have frozen in the blizzard. He offered me a small, desultory smile. I am Viti Jokinen, keeper of this outpost. Join me for a cup of tea? His smile sent a thrill through me. Despite his rudeness, zut alors. Seemed my body was not in the least offended by his manner. Gave him a slow smile of my own, and was gratified when he flushed delicately and looked away. Ah, Passepartout, he murmured, handing me a cup of tea. If only we'd met in better circumstances, I do feel we might have become friends. And perhaps more than that, I murmured delicately, with a lift of my eyebrow. Perhaps, he agreed softly, a hungry look flashing in his grey eyes before they faded into wistful chagrin. And so we spent a surprisingly pleasant few hours in conversation as the crew refueled the airship. It was with genuine sorrow that I bid him farewell, prepared to embark on the next leg of our frostbitten journey. Depart. There's a depart at 8 AM. Yeah, we can do that. Pretty cheap, this travel mode here. Meteorological airship. The blizzard was even more howling and wild as the airship departed from the outpost, and I shivered as I thought of the distance we had yet to travel. Wool trousers. Reykjavik. London. Very good. We drifted across the top of the world in relative silence. Below, wars were fought, hearts broken, curses uttered, lives began and ended, but all we saw were the cresting waves and the endless drifting ice. I asked the captain for his thoughts, but he only shrugged. This is home, he replied. I've heard the rest of the world is a bit warmer. Perhaps one day I'll go on holiday there. My master paced the narrow decks and said nothing. Clearly the wager hung heavy on his mind. How small London would seem when we finally arrived, now that we'd seen the world from this lofty height. The weather cleared as we neared our destination. The water of Faxaflói Bay shone an impossibly bright blue underneath us as the low, colourful buildings of Reykjavik swept along the curve of the shoreline. Past days of tumult and blizzard seemed almost a dream. We're in Iceland now. We need to explore. To find an onward journey to London, I hope. Yeah, looks good. Reykjavik was a quiet town with few inhabitants, but still had the feeling of a bustling center of commerce. The flag of the Kingdom of Denmark fluttered above the trade hall, declaring this place an outpost. But of all the outposts, colonies and adjuncts of great nations we'd seen, it seemed the most comfortable in its skin. This comfort was most likely derived from the natural hot springs. Well, that gave us back all our health. Look at that. Which we tried out in an open area behind a fine fish restaurant. Monsieur Fogg sat at one end and myself at the other, and we breathed in gulps of steam with a deep, satisfying sigh. It has been a long and wearisome adventure, I called. Indeed, my master replied. Some 63 days, but we're not done yet. When does this one leave? Oh, it costs 1,000. Tomorrow at 8 AM. Perfect. I mean, we do have 1,000, but we need to sell some of our stuff. So we have like three bags at the moment. We passed an anxious night, with our 80-day deadline looming. Every sunset seemed to carry extra weight. As night fell, I went to stretch my legs on, only to observe a charming Slavic madame in a raging argument with a housewife. A confrontation I chose to avoid, before it turned to blows. Oh, so I can't... Oh... I can't sell here? Well, that's unfortunate. Well, I guess I'll do this. That's unfortunate we didn't get to sell our stuff. Should have sold it earlier. This looks like a worrisome route. Minus 34, yeah, but that's okay. It's the last leg of the journey. Silver Seal. The Silver Seal was a gig imported from the Ottoman Empire. How long will it take? Asked the captain as we boarded. 3 days, he replied. Can't be done any faster. 3 days seemed like a very long time, and I could see from Monsieur Fogg's expression that he thought as much as well. Yes. What is it you wish, master? Judy. Can't afford to lose a single day. I have a terrible headache. But the pancakes are better than the flowers in Amsterdam these days. Alright. The ocean tore along beneath us. I enjoyed talking to no one. There was nothing I needed to know, no one to charm, flatter or beguile into giving us aid. There was only the wind and the time. And we could control neither. Passepartout, my master demanded. Make us go faster, if you would. Oh god. I approached the captain. Faster, you say? You are crazy. We would explode. We want no risk, no danger. Then I promise you, we'll be in London in 2 more days. Your concerns are much appreciated. Monsieur Fogg looked out of the observation deck windows with perfect calm. There was no reason to be concerned. We were safely within our 80-day window. I could not wait to stride into the Reform Club and claim our prize. I spent the remaining time ironing, which is a great solace to an uneasy soul. We tethered at the airship dock in Hyde Park and felt, for the first time in 66 days, the feel of English soil under our shoes. At long last, we returned to London, and in good time to win the wager. Yay, we made it. 66 days, £650. Well now, this journey is proving more draining than I expected. But we have returned. I seized my master by the collar and threw him into one of the steam carriage idling on the banks of the Serpentine in Hyde Park. To the Reform Club, I shouted, throwing £50 at the driver as inducement to speed. And you'll have another 50 when we arrive. Now drive. There is no need for such unseemly haste, Passepartout, my master noted, but I was a man possessed. The streets of London seemed comforting and familiar as they flashed past my well-travelled eyes. The carriages were mostly horse-drawn, and gas lamps rather than electricity lit our way as we raced down Pall Mall. The carriage barely shuddered to a steam-hissing stop before I dragged my master from his seat. From his seat up the steps to the imposing doors of the Reform Club. I released him only when we reached the great saloon, where my master's erstwhile friends stood from their chairs, gaping in an attitude of great shock. Monsieur Fogg only straightened a little and said, in his calm voice, "Gentlemen, here I am." The room exploded in cheers. Where had the crowd come from? Had they followed us inside from the street? I'd scarcely noted them. I realized, as though a spell had suddenly broken, that the master had won his wager of £20,000. For the 4,000 we began with, the debt built up from banks along the way and our remaining funds, there was a profit of over 15,000, hardly a meager sum. My heart began to beat again, and I saw for the first time the crowds who had forced their way into the club. To witness the monstrous occasion, or momentous occasion, a journalist in dark blue bonnet caught my eye. "And you must be the loyal valet, Passepartout," she said. "I do not believe we have been introduced," I remarked. "All of London has been feverishly following Phileas Fogg's progress in the papers." She swept her gaze over me and scribbled furiously in her notebook. "Your master will be tomorrow's headline, or I'll heat my hat." "It is a fine hat," I agreed. She laughed. Then I'll be glad not to have to eat it." One of the club's butlers was just taking from our case the mysterious device we found in Canada. "To go above the mantelpiece, I think," he murmured. "A most fine souvenir of your adventures, Monsieur Fogg, sir." It looked quite fine there, and I smiled with pride. I pushed my way through to Monsieur Fogg, who had nearly been swallowed by congratulatory crowds. "You've won the bet, monsieur," I told him. As though saying it aloud once more would make it more real. And then repeated the sentiment again, for good measure. Monsieur Fogg pressed my hand warmly, and did not remark even once upon the impropriety of my gesture. Indeed, though his cool gaze did not so much as waver or soften, I believe he welcomed the chance to shake my hand. "Any gentleman would be fortunate to call you his valet, and you've been a worthy companion to me besides," Monsieur Fogg said, and I knew that from him there could be no higher praise. "Mr. Fogg! Mr. Fogg!" the blue-bonneted journalist cried, interrupting our conversation. "What next for the great adventurer Phileas Fogg and his loyal valet Passepartout?" My master looked at me. I returned the glance. "I've always wondered what is at the center of the earth." Nice reference to another one of Jules Verne's books here. I looked around at faces of the assembled crowd and quirked an eyebrow. "Anyone care to make a wager?" Monsieur Fogg refrained from rolling his eyes. "I believe," he said, with great deliberation, "that tonight I will have supper and go to bed. Come, Passepartout, it grows late. Yes, Monsieur Fogg, I said and followed. Your journey around the world is complete. Nice. Celebrated Englishman Phileas Fogg wins round the world wager. Journey completed in 66 days despite slow ride on horseback across the steppes. Reykjavik diversion, it's not a diversion, and airlift by pirates in Europe. I like how they reiterated our problems here. That's pretty cool. We visited 17 cities, well that's not so much. Traveled 21,000 miles. Favorite transport, steamships, finishing balance 15,600. Traveled 8,700 by sea, 6,400 by land, 5,700 by air. And we spent 11,000 pounds. My character is zestful, my manner is passionate, my valeting is remarkable. The relations with Fogg are comfortable. And that's it. Oh, that's cool. So now we get to look at our route again. Alright, so what do we do here? So we travel to Paris first. Then to Munich, Berlin, Warsaw, Minsk, Moscow, and then took the Trans-Siberian Railway till about here. Took the horses for like 6 days, I think, to the Mongol capital, then the airship to Yokohama, and this ship here over to San Francisco, which got diverted to Honolulu, and then we had to stage a mutiny because we didn't have any money. We needed to get to our destination here and then withdraw more money in San Francisco. Then we made our way up the west coast of the United States, took the Transcontinental Railway in Canada until Regina, I think it was, right? Or Winnipeg. Then took the car north, crossed the Hudson Bay, took an airship to Iceland after a stopover in Greenland, and from there took another airship to London. That's pretty cool. So this is probably like about the northernmost route you can do, right? I mean, you can go like through like Amsterdam and Copenhagen and then St. Petersburg here as well. But that was pretty, like, through Russia is pretty northward. Then we took a little bit of a detour south here, because we wanted to find our Mongolian princess. Unfortunately, we didn't go to Vladivostok, but also this is the northernmost again. And up to Canada, then up here. Pretty cool. So this is the northernmost route, I think, more or less. I think next up, I think I'm going to do another playthrough. Next up, I might either do like one circumnavigation that's a bit more in the middle, like go through the take the Orient Express, go to Istanbul, then through Turkey, Iran, and India, and so on and so forth, and then maybe go to the Philippines, and from there to Honolulu, then almost here. Or I'll do the southernmost route as possible. It would be something like going from Paris to Nice, I think, and then going through Africa here, going down to Madagascar, and maybe make our way to like Australia even, New Zealand, South America, and then up through Africa again. I don't know though. This was a fun game. So many choices to make. So many things to see, and there's tremendous replay value, right? So much stuff we haven't seen yet. So yeah, thanks for watching. That was a fun journey, quite literally. And see you in another playthrough on this channel. Maybe of this game, maybe another one. Thank you, bye bye.